What's good, YouTube? Today I want to bring up a video topic that actually had bugged me for a little bit, and I finally figured out what is my favorite card, and then I wanted to ask a bunch of my friends what are their favorite cards. Originally it was Genzo until the advent of STON, and Sheehan quickly became my favorite even though he wasn't in my first top because he impeded exactly what my opponents were trying to do by limiting them to one activation of a spell or trap per turn, and I thought that was pretty darn cool. And as a 2500 body that special summoned out, that was also cool, but the art is also pretty awesome to me. This just imposing guy who is pushing his will on the game. So let's hear out some other people and their reasons, be it artwork, be it fandom, be it what the card does. Let's see what some of your favorite people actually feel about their Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
My favorite card is number 81 Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Super Dora, because I have no admirable dueling skill to speak of whatsoever, so sitting on an easily accessible 4K wall that's unaffected by card effects and pops cards during the opponent's turn if Derek Crane is attached to it is right up my alley. You hear that, Masterpiece? Trains did it first. Trains are the real masterpiece, you broken piece of shit.
My favorite card is Breaker the Magical Warrior. Breaker has so much sentimental value for me for several different reasons. First off, the artwork is so badass. I mean, it truly reflects the unique art style that Yu-Gi-Oh had, or I guess I should say used to have. I mean, the detailing on his armor, then you got the really cool purple background with like the triangles. There's so much detail on this card, and every time I look at it, I always find something new that I didn't notice before. Then you have his effect, which back in the day, having a 1900 level 4 that for removing a spell counter and reducing his attack by 300 to pop a trap card on the field, be it something like a set Mirror Force or a Sakuretsu armor, was just fucking insane. And the fact that it was out of one of my favorite sets of all time, Magician's Force, it was a card that was completely ahead of its time. And even to this day, even though it's completely impractical, I try to find a way to make Breaker work because the effect is still not bad. I mean, obviously it's been power creep to all hell, but I mean, it's just one of those cards that I'm always gonna love. And for a lot of us as well, the anime, the battle between Yami and Weevil, that's something that I think a lot of us are never gonna forget.
What's up, guys? Yugi, yes, maybe Jesus is here. So John invited me to do a clip on this video. I don't know what it's going to be about really, except for the fact that people are going to be talking about some of their favorite cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! And for me, it's not always that simple picking my favorite card, because there's certain cards in certain formats that I just love, and then there's cards where I just love the artwork on them. I'm usually into that more old school Yu-Gi-Oh! Darker artwork because... Nah, but for real though, I've just always loved that darker, you know, cooler looking art style. But to make this short and sweet, some of my favorite cards of all time are from my childhood, including what is my favorite card of all time right now, which is Toon World. I like Toon World because Pegasus was my favorite villain from the show, and I always saw toons as being really dark and creepy in their own way, which I always thought was really cool. And I also like the artwork on Toon World because it's like this creepy castle coming out of a book. It's awesome. And if you think about it, Toon World is a lot different from other cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because it's a continuous spell that you pay 1,000 for that just stays up on the field. It doesn't really do anything except allow you to summon toon monsters. It's just kind of there, which makes it really unique. And I know in past like Q&A videos I've said Relinquished is my favorite card, and Relinquished is my favorite monster of all time, but basically all of Pegasus's cards are my favorites, really.
So honestly, my favorite card in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is Familiar Possessed Iria. I've always really enjoyed the Possessed archetype, and as far as potential waifu goes, Iria has always been one of those cards, whether or not in foreign or English. It honestly has some of the coolest artwork in the game.
I think most people know my favorite card is Brilliant Fusion. What you might not know is why. So when I first started getting into Yu-Gi-Oh! I built a lot of decks that were normal summon heavy. I think a lot of people end up doing that when they first get into this game. And they were just really not viable at all. But when Brilliant Fusion came out and we got Gemknight Seraphinite to summon off of it, I was now able to play and make, and I'm still making, so many decks that without the extra normal summon from Seraphinite just wouldn't be able to function. So I like Brilliant Fusion because it unlocks the potential of a lot of rogue and casual strategies that just wouldn't have been viable at all without the card.
My favorite monster of all time is going to be this blue card right here, Trishula, the Ice Barrier Dragon. Of course, Trishula is going to be the best one here because, well, it is the best synchro monster of all time. Defined that non-targeting effects are definitely some of the best effects in this game. Look at the artwork right now. It has, what, 3 heads hitting 3 areas. Your hand, field, and graveyard. And it does not target. So, what more could you ask? Well, you got a ritual version of Necros of Trishula. And I really love this card. Looking at the artwork, it does remind me of Blue Eye's Ultimate Dragon, Kaiba's ultimate monster at the time. And if Kaiba has a thing for Blue Eyes, then I clearly have a thing for Trishula. As my very first tournament mat and custom artwork, OG artwork, I made this bad boy here, and went as far as even making one for his skinned alive version from Shrit. And that would be my favorite monster of all time.
I think what's really just interesting is the different kinds of reasons people can have a favorite card tied into this game. There's so much passion and like thought that goes into a favorite card, and it's so hard to pick one. For me, Xian barely edges out Jinzo in Solemn Judgment, and depending on my mood, maybe I would even change it, but like, it just cements my legacy and who I am in the game to pick Xian. Versus Solemn Judgment, I was the second person ever to win with Triple Solemn, and something that all these cards have in common, playstyle-wise, just happened to be that it doesn't let my opponent play the game that they want to play. Solemn Judgment, I pick and choose when to stop them. Xian, they're forced to make their decisions. Jinzo, they can't play any traps. It shuts off an entire line of play. And before that, going way back to Annoying Old John, it was Gravity Bind. It's just kind of my evolution through the game on what my favorite cards are. That's another reason that I highly enjoy Ultimate Conductor Tyranno and the Dinosaurs. Conductor Tyranno basically says, hey, I get to choose when you stop playing the way you want to play. And that's a really cool thing. This kind of combination of offense and defense has always been my kind of favorite mechanic in Yu-Gi-Oh! And art so much wouldn't influence my favorite card, but somebody like Robbie Cole, who has his waifu, or maybe, you know, the influence that Breaker had in combination of art for Cimo alongside its playability. There's just so many factors that can go into a favorite card, and I think it's great, and there's so much to look at there. For Dzeeff, it's this card that just allows so many decks to be played that otherwise wouldn't be, an enabler, even though it basically just says summon Seraph Knight. His favorite card is basically the enable of another normal summon and then having that level 5 body on board, perhaps. It's just so many different things combined make our favorite card. So, I want to ask you guys in the audience, you guys sitting out here who just heard us all ramble like old men talking about a Rapidash. What's your favorite card and why? Does it have to do with artwork, ability, a combination of, or something completely different? Card lore is one of the coolest things out there too. There's so many different reasons to have favorites. It's so hard to pick just one. Like, there are insane lines of card lore stories that I just get enthralled with listening to, and I'm like, no way, that just happened. Marauding Captain's Tale, Freed's Tale, YugiNoNo, they're all tying in together. It's just so hard to pick, like, kind of one favorite story behind a card, one favorite artwork behind a card, one favorite effect, and then for it to all accumulate and rise above. And it says so much about us as duelists, but at the same time, it just says this kind of circle that we can all sit around and then talk about what and why, and just kind of nod and happily understand for each other. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully I haven't rambled on too long about my favorite card and these guys' favorite cards, but I just think it's a really cool aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh! That we can sit down and talk about. There's not many things that just don't ignite something in the room to make everybody hate someone unless they say, my favorite's Qliphort Towers, and even then, people are starting to, like, accept that kind of thing. They're like, oh, well, Kaiju's our thing, it wouldn't be a problem now, he can come on back. Despite the terror that he reigned on people for so long. It's just so funny that having a favorite card really is just one of the most positive things in Yu-Gi-Oh! And I want you guys to sit down in the comment section below, tell me yours, and tell me why. Definitely gonna pin one of you guys down there below. But who will it be? Who will my favorite comment be?